the third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete Sunday. We rejoice, for the Lord is near. And there are many things that bring us joy. Many things we would probably all agree bring us joy. And then there's some things that don't necessarily bring us joy. And perhaps there's some things that bring some people joy and don't bring other people joy. If we left church today and there was 3 feet of snow sitting outside, we wouldn't have joy, many of us, because we'd have to go home and shovel it. But if you enjoy skiing, then you look and you go, wow, there's 3 feet of snow. The other day, there was an opportunity for me to go to somebody's house for dinner, and they had a fruitcake. I can't imagine fruitcake bringing anybody any joy. But they keep making it over and over and over again. So I guess somebody enjoys fruitcake. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying that they didn't like Christmas music. And I said, why don't you like Christmas music? He said, because they play it over and over and over again. And it's the same 20 songs over and over and over again. So Christmas music can bring joy, but for some, it doesn't bring joy. What about Jesus? Does Jesus bring joy into our lives? Are we joyful not just because we're about to celebrate Christmas and maybe get some gifts? Are we joyful each and every day because God loved us so much that He came down into this world as a human being so that He could lead us closer to Himself and to the greatest gift of all, the gift of eternal life? For most of us, that's nice. Makes us happy. But doesn't necessarily bring us joy. What would be different today if we chose to leave church today and say, I'm going to have joy today no matter what happens? No matter what somebody says to me, no matter what happens in the parking lot, no matter what happens at the store, no matter what happens anywhere, I'm going to choose to have joy. What will be different tomorrow if we choose to have joy? It'd be nice if it didn't take any effort. It'd be nice if we just got up every morning and said, I'm going to be joyful today. The reality is it takes a little bit of effort. It's easier to look at everything that's going wrong, everything we're not happy about, all the things people are doing to us. It's easier to get up each day and say, I'm not going to be joyful today. But what would be different? And the reason for our joy is right before us. Because God isn't just out there. Because He wants to be in here. He came 2,000 years ago to dwell on this earth, but He's still present. And that itself is reason for joy. Isaiah said, the desert and the parched land will exult. We all have deserts in our lives. We all have moments in our life when it seems like it's dry and there's nothing good that's going to come. And we can choose to stay in those deserts, or we can choose. We can choose to be joyful even in the midst of the deserts. Strengthen the hands that are feeble. Make firm the knees that are weak. Say to those whose hearts are frightened, be strong, fear not. This is why we can be joyful, because the Lord has come to strengthen us. He has come to be a part of our lives when fear wants to overtake us. But it's a choice. The eyes of the blind will be opened. The ears of the deaf will be cleared. The lame will leap, and the tongues of the mute will sing. That's why we can be joyful, because we're not alone. But we can walk out of this church today, we can turn off the television, and we can say, oh, that was nice, and immediately allow life to just take us over. The psalm said, Lord, come and save us. The Lord sets captives free. My brothers and sisters, is there something keeping us captive? Did we come to church today captive to something that says it's going to bring us joy and happiness, but never brings joy and happiness in the long run? That's the nature of sin. Nature of sin is it seems like it's going to bring us joy. In the long run, it doesn't. Whatever might be holding us captive today, we can choose to give that to God each day and to say, Lord, fill me with your joy. That might almost seem impossible. But what if right now we just said, Lord, fill me with your joy, even when I don't necessarily know how that's going to happen? Second reading said, be patient as the farmer waits. A farmer doesn't sit there and just watch his field. He moves around and then comes back and hopes that something's happening. Got to be patient. We can sit around and say, okay, I'm going to wait for joy to come. Or we can live life and just trust that God's there and ask for that grace to be patient. Make your hearts firm. Do not complain about one another. Maybe that's why we don't find joy, because we complain about one another. If we spend our entire day complaining about everybody else, well, I'm not going to find much joy in that. But I'm going to be tempted to complain about somebody, because there's always somebody to complain about. But I can choose when I want to complain about somebody to pray for the person instead. That's how we experience joy. And then the familiar gospel. John the Baptist from prison. Are you the one who is to come? And Jesus says, tell John all this stuff. And John's so joyful. He's so joyful that he's not waiting for anything else. He knows the Lord's coming. And that's the source of all his joy. The last line in the gospel. Among those born of woman, there has been none greater than John the Baptist, yet the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. That's us. No greater than John the Baptist, but you're greater than he is. That brings us joy. So perhaps if we walked outside and there's 3 feet of snow, we wouldn't be very joyful, or maybe we would be. If you're one of the 5 people who like fruitcake, perhaps you're joyful. Maybe the Christmas music is something that brings you joy, or maybe you're like, okay. But in the end, we can choose each day whether we're going to allow the Lord to bring us joy. It's a choice. Some days it's harder than others. May God give us the grace to choose today and then tomorrow and then the next day. But may God give us the grace to choose to be joyful.